The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And my voice doesn't sound the same because I have a cold. So
that's what happens when you fly to California for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 90 degrees out there today. So let's get right to the meat and potatoes of some things. And the paperwork in front of you is not necessarily in order, only because we almost didn't make it on the air live. Currently, the city is still in disagreement with the state, no matter how many memorandums they send down, with how much money they owe. $1 million was transferred yesterday by the city council to the school department. Well, guess what? There's still an estimated $2.2 million, if not more, shortfall after that transfer. And what's their solution? We're going to transfer that next year with free cash.
Well, it's the old fast shuffle and we'll do it tomorrow game.
Yeah.
And I watched the meeting last night, and I was really appalled watching this presentation. You know, I mean, nobody gets down to the bottom line here.
No.
And we had a counselor, Long, give all kinds of kudos and commendation to the great job Cathy Ann's doing. Of what? We've got two financial teams that are probably costing the city nearly $1 million in salaries, or maybe in excess of $1 million, and they can't agree on numbers that are statutorily required. And this has gone on for year after year after year. And what did she say? Oh, we'll have all the numbers for you in September. Well, that's after the budget's been approved.
Isn't it always
again,
like that?
a con, and the city council will approve a budget, excuse me, will approve a budget that basically isn't worth the paper it's printed on. And what do? Do we get rid of these people? Do we consolidate? Why is it that, look, it's not because that, you know, we're the only city in this condition. Why does Lowell fund their school department adequately? Why does Lawrence fund their school department? How do they figure that out, how much they owe, when it's not rocket science, and they can do it? So have we gone to one of these cities and looked at as to how they arrive at this magical number, this number that we can never agree on in Fall River? And her response, and the council for the most part accepted it. There were a few that her response was, well, they say we owe that, but we disagree. Well, we're going to appeal it. Well, you've lost every appeal you've ever made. Well, that's true too. And she even said, you're right, I wouldn't take that bet. Here's the city administrator of the city of Fall River making $120,000 a year, telling you she wouldn't even bet on winning the appeal, but they're still going to do it. Does it sound a little bit like Dominion? Does it sound a little bit like every year? And do we ever fix it? No. The mayor is the chairman ex officio of the school committee for a reason. How long have we been telling them to get the two parties in a room? They got the two parties in a room, yes, supposedly, and they still don't agree. And this will go on forever. Why? Because they get away with it. It was deplorable to watch that dog and pony show And with Mary Sahadi making, now they got the tag team, Heckle and Jekyll. They got, Cathy lies, and the other one nods her head and says, well, yeah, well, we don't have the numbers exactly, but the numbers will be in by September, but they have to be in by June 30th, but you might get them by September, and blah, and it's just like, after a couple of minutes of watching that, you want to hit yourself in the head with a hammer, because it's so much BS, you can't follow it. They contradict themselves every 2 minutes. They don't give any information. And what do we get from most of the council? Okay, let's vote for it. We got to do it. Well, we got to do it, and we'll pay it next year. Just like the debt services. They didn't explain, do we only pay the interest? We got money left over from our debt service? That's not money left over. It's money that we didn't pay toward our bills. We paid the interest and we had this left over. This is ridiculous. I mean, it's beyond ridiculous. They should put the entire city financial team in jail for malfeasance.
Well, I agree, Chip. And, this just gets worse and worse. But I'm going to tell you something. Cliff Ponte really shocked me yesterday when he turned around and he said, well, we have to take these numbers on faith. Again? We have to believe in this? Haven't you learned? Pamela, Liberté, LeBeau, and Linda, we voted on faith. We voted for this on faith. So what? We now have a bunch of evangelical city councilors who are going to operate on faith towards His Royal Highness, the boy emperor? We're going to take it on faith. And that really bothers me because, I had been reaching out to Cliff. I know you have. And he seemed to be very receptive to a lot of the information. And he does take it and he does review it. But then we take it on faith.
Yeah,
take
you're right.
Nothing on faith.
No,
I mean,
well,
you know what? I was just talking to somebody this morning who turned around and said, I'm putting my house up for sale because I got to get out of Dodge. He says, I'm going to lose $100,000 on my home, but I'm getting out of here. I can't take it anymore. And you know what? I honestly started looking at saying, maybe it's time for me to sell my properties and go out of town because the middle class in Fall River is gone. And this city wants to keep catering to people who aren't going to pay the taxes, which means that you and I, you the taxpayer, you the property owner, have to pay the taxes. Yeah, and we keep getting gouged more and more and more, and they keep making mistakes so they can keep their friends in jobs.
And they don't care because they have high-paying jobs and they get plenty of money, and, and they don't care about it. And the other people don't pay taxes, so it's the people who have to live on a normal income or a fixed income that take the hit. And look, faith. There's no faith when it comes to numbers and doing things that are this critical to the economic survival of the city. And the other thing is, listen, I'm a betting man, and I know on a crap table if I play a 6, it's 6 to 5 odds it'll come out.
Right.
6 against me to 5, so it's pretty close to even money. It's the best bet on a table, better than a 30 to 1 odd bet. You're not going to make that very often. Well, if I'm betting on these numbers being right, the odds are about 10 million. I mean, you got a better chance of hitting the Powerball today.
I agree.
Because let's look at our history. We haven't been right in how many years? This has been going on for how many years? They even admitted they have absolutely no idea if they're right.
Right.
And they will probably lose their appeal. And nobody could figure out that's code for we're full of bullshit and we're trying to delay this till after the budget.
Right.
That's exactly what they were saying, and nobody in that council can figure that out.
No, because you know what? They don't want to make any waves. It seems like none of them want to. And it's terrible. My biggest problem is, the Herald News, and at the last show we had it, but we couldn't get into it, they did an article about the lottery and how Fall River is actually the largest producer of lottery sales in the state. We're number 1 in the voluntary tax, okay? And people in Fall River who can least afford it are buying these lottery tickets, and they're grasping at that multi-million-dollar win that they are never going to see. When the jackpot for Powerball or Mega Millions is up at $2 or $3 million, I turn around and I take one ticket and I say, hey, I'm all set. But other than that, I'm not paying any bets on something that odds are against me. That is an actual, it's a fact. Right.
If you go anywhere, normally the poorest communities spend the most in the lotteries and the most on cigarettes. So the fact is that they're trying to get rich quick because they can't earn a decent living. They're trying to win it. And this is one of the reasons that it boggled my mind when people were against the casino in this area that would bring jobs and help infuse the economy, yet they don't have a problem with the lottery.
Right.
Because Fall River gets a disproportionate share of the lottery.
Right.
If you look at how much Fall River gets from the state lottery, when we lead the state in lottery sales, yet a place like Newton that's got an economy that's 10 times what our economy is.
And they don't buy a lot of lottery
And they don't buy a lot of lottery tickets because they don't need to hit the lottery. They already own the lottery. And they get a far greater share proportionately for what they spend than we do. So, look, it's an indication, it's a symptom of the problem in Fall River. Cities that are poor, people that can't get high-paying jobs, play the lottery. They're hoping to hit the Powerball and be able to move out of Fall River. Because I guarantee you, anybody that hits Powerball or the lottery for any amount of money, 98% of them, the first thing they'll do is pull up stakes and move to the burbs.
That's right.
So that's, but I mean, look, getting back to the council, it was disgraceful.
Yep.
It was disgraceful. All it was piling the crap on to tell everybody. They virtually admitted that they have absolutely no idea. They're going to appeal when they know they're probably not going to win. As I said, Cathy Ann said, look at the tape.
I know.
I wouldn't take that bet either.
Right. And the biggest problem is that you have the boy emperor who went to the Labor Relations Board, and they want more information for their probable cause hearing, and they're probably not going to do that until June sometime, maybe even later, because we know the Labor Relations Board isn't going to act immediately in most cases. They want a full picture, and he's going to sign a contract with Easy Disposal, which has already been proven is going to cost the city more money over time. So again, who cares? I have a friend. He needs a job. He needs this contract. He's not going to make any money for 5 years, but at the end of 5 years, he's going to get everything. He's going to get waste. He's going to get recycling. He's going to get yard waste, and he's going to gouge the hell out of us. And you know what? Who cares? Because it's not my money.
Okay, let me make a point of clarification here. I just received a message that says that, and I did watch it, but I didn't watch the whole thing because obviously with the head the size of a basketball, I keep nodding off. But I did watch the part when they discussed some of these issues, and Councilor Ponte said that 3 of these were tabled ultimately, and because he didn't have enough information, and he's not voting on faith. I did watch the part where he condemned them for not giving proper information. So I'm not sure of if you saw him say he was was voting on faith, but what I saw, he was questioning even the numbers and their accuracy and about getting it. And I have to say that even what they present to the council is an insult.
Right.
They talked about insurance. Now, people are assuming that was coming from the health care insurance because it's the only insurance that has normally major numbers.
Right.
But it was real estate insurance. That's what they said. So it's like, okay.
How does a city like Fall River, which is a
Okay,
self-insured-
how did we manage to get $18 million in real estate insurance? I don't know. I'm not a real estate guy.
Yeah.
I don't, I didn't even, I know that we have stop loss and stuff. I know all the insurances that we have in association with the healthcare plan. But I wasn't even aware of that. I'm not even sure if they make that great a deal. And I know Councilor Ponte is a real estate, he's involved in real estate, and I would be a good subject for him with his expertise in that field to check
Right.
to see if we're getting a good deal, because historically, the insurances in this city have gone to connected people who are making pretty good premiums on them.
Yeah.
But listen, the whole thing was an absolute disaster. I mean, I don't know how any city councilor in their right mind could vote for the budget that's going to be presented to them very shortly after that presentation last night. So we could conceivably have another $2 million. We'll pay it next year with what?
But Chip, the problem is this, and just for clarification, where I got the quote from Cliff Ponte was, it's a soundbite that's being used by local media regularly, and they're playing it over and over again. So, again, sound bites are always what they are, but
And they can be taken out of context.
they can be taken out of context. But again, this is why our city councilors need to understand. You've got to be careful what you say and how you say it, because what comes before and what comes from after may not be utilized. And I have a great deal of respect for Cliff, because I think that he is truly trying to figure out what to do. But
Well,
just
yeah.
that comment really threw me back. I'm like, wait a minute. Is he entering the Pam La Liberté LeBeau and Linda Pereira camp that we're going to vote on faith? But, the other thing is this. Every year we hear this from the city council, because the doom and gloom scenario is always painted. You know what? Call them on it. Call them on it. Say, hey, doom and gloom, let's go. Doom and gloom. Let's see what happens. Because they turn out, well, we had to approve the budget, otherwise we'd be on 112, and people get laid off, and and we'll have to lay off. And they always say what? We have to lay off police and fire. We have to lay off police and fire. We have to lay off police and fire. Yeah, you have to lay off police and fire so you can get 5 of them to go to the city council meeting last night to babysit. And who's paying for that? You know who? They were taken off the streets. They were taken off the streets to babysit the city council. And I applaud Joe Camara for saying, if you're coming here off the streets, go back to your job.
Well,
That is sad.
No, you're right. And the fact is that what really, and another thing that upset me was Steve Camara basically saying, so we lose one, if we give this money to the school department, we may lose one firefighter, one police officer, and we'll get along with it. Well, that attitude is problematic to me, because something, before we lose one police officer or one firefighter, we should lose $110,000 job to run a half a department that's been gutted by a third before you even take the position. We better lose a lot of these redundant positions in the city. We need a real reorganization. And anybody that votes for a budget with these kind of numbers and with what's been going on in the city of Fall River, as far as salaries are concerned, as far as numbers are concerned, and then allows police and fire to be used again as a human shield against this, is going to have problems in the next election, because it's unconscionable to me that this is happening. I mean, look, from the get-go, I've been a strong opponent of this quote-unquote reorganization. You get rid of 3 middle management positions, which, by the way, at some point in time will come back, just like the lawyer did in the law department, that they eliminated. He's back. They hired a 3rd lawyer. So.
And they still can't do their job.
And they still can't do the job, right. But 3 middle management positions, and then you split a department and pay 2 department heads big money
Right.
to run smaller departments. You show me in private industry when they downsize, if they split everything up and pay people more to do less. I mean, it's just, everything we do in this city is ass backwards.
Oh, it is.
And we can't have it anymore. And the city council, and you're right, and I've said it before, You got to call them on it.
Right.
If we go to a 112 budget, we go to a 112 budget. But I'm going to tell you something. If I was sitting in one of those seats, I would never vote for a budget until we have a forensic audit in this city, until I could be confident that every single money, and I would not vote for any budget that isn't predicated with each department telling me what they're going to do that year, what they did the past year, and what their expenditures are for the entire year, like they do in Newton. Look at the Newton budget. And if they come back in front of the city council a month after the budget's been passed and say they don't have enough money,
Too bad.
you know what you say? Too bad.
Exactly.
Because when you presented the budget to the city council, it should be your budget to run for the next fiscal year, not a half a budget, not a budget that could be adjusted later because you're not giving everybody the full figures. And as a city councilor, I would be 100% comfortable in saying, I can't vote for this budget because I know this isn't the real budget. And anybody that comes back in front of the city council in the next fiscal year, if the rest of the council outvotes me and we get this budget rammed down our throat, anybody from any department, water department, anybody, you run out of money, you come before the council, you don't have my vote. If it wasn't in your budget,
Too bad.
when you presented it to the city council, tough.
Yeah, well, and that's always been the problem. So we get to this entire mess all the time. Now, they had the first reading of removing the sanitation fee, and it passed 6-3. 3 people said, no, I don't have the numbers. I can't do it responsibly. Can you take a bet on who did that? You had Richard Cabaceres, Sean Cadine, and Linda Pereira. So remember this when you vote in September next year, because they're all for gouging you $120 a year. That's what the vote is. Like it or not, people, that's what the vote is. Regardless of what financial situation it may cause for the city, they voted for, yet again, another tax or another fee. Remember, they don't know how to say no to a tax or a fee.
Well, they may also vote for the privatization, and we don't know how much that's going to cost either, but they may vote for that. And you know something, it's, like I said, it's to the point where it's become, I mean, I just can't understand this. It's like, why does Fall River, we have government by ostrich? They just bury their head in the sand. It's like, why, we love to go to other communities and point the other communities to justify pay raises and things. Why can't we go to those other communities and say, how does Lawrence and Lowell manage to figure out how much they owe in net school spending? How do they manage to do these things? But no, we don't do that. We just go along our merry way with numbers that are always wrong, and then every year we've got carryover bills that throw the next budget into chaos.
Like $2.2 million for the school
Already. And, free cash and this cash, and we're going to do that. We're going to take money from here to there, and we're going to fund departments that were supposed to be fully funded. None of these numbers are right. It's a catastrophe and of epic proportion. And you know something? We've said it before. If receivership is the only way that we can get somebody in here to really do the books, maybe that's what has to be done.
I agree.
I mean, it's to the point now. It's beyond, it's beyond ludicrous. We're far past ludicrous speed. I don't even know what speed we're at making just everything a mess here. And when I see something like yesterday, I mean, it's an insult to anybody's intelligence if you look at that and listen to what they're saying. Listen, please listen. City Council, listen. What did she say? Take away all the hyperbole and all the superfluous language and all the crap. What she fundamentally said is, I don't have a clue. We don't have a clue. We're probably wrong, but we're going to appeal anyway so we can delay this past the budget process so you people can take the blame.
That's right.
And you guys listened for the most part.
And you're in Fall River, it's used guys.
Use guys, yeah.
Yeah, well, let's move off the city real quick. We only got a few more minutes. The Senate approves the retiree insurance protection, which was due to expire this year. Now, we know that city employees are governed under collective bargaining agreements, so how much they have to pay is governed there. But retirees don't have that governance. So the Senate and the House took this up, and they plan a measure to extend the now 5-year-old moratorium, currently set to expire July 1. It prevents municipalities from implementing health insurance plan design changes and also increasing premium contribution percentage rates. While active insurance plans designs changes are, and also increasing premiums, come from the protections of the collective bargaining agreement, retirees don't have that. So I thought you'd be interested in that article, Chip.
Oh, no, I know, because, you know, retirement system is much maligned. It's been rated by cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth for years, and that's the reason they're in the problems they're in. But it's a very...
And the last press release I got just before showtime with the request to please air it as soon as possible, so I want to get it out there. Baker-Polito administration filed legislation to cap sick time accrual. And, you know, sick leave benefit employees, when they're retired, can currently, I believe, cash out like 20% of their sick time, which has resulted in millions and millions of dollars in cash out costs. Under the current law, employees can accrue a maximum of 15 days per year, and those employees who retire are permitted to cash out 20%. In fiscal year 2015, 370 employees had accrued more than 1,000 hours upon retirement. While this represents only approximately 1/3 of the number of retiring employees, the cash outs for these employees account for nearly 80% of cash out costs. Based on the 3 fiscal years, it is, if implemented, a 1,000-hour cap on accruals would have saved an average of $3.5 million in cash outs per year. And we see that all the time, whether it be state representatives, state senator, college professors, college presidents. They let their sick time accrue, and even in our own police, fire, school department, they let it accrue and accrue and accrue, and the next thing you know, they're going to file for retirement, like our current chief is doing, and utilizing all the stuff they can't cash out.
I'm still interested to see if he gets a second buyout. But you know, I think that thing, the entire system, I think needs to be looked at, because this other article about the retiree protection, very, very important thing was cited. It said the average pension in the state is $22,000 a year. And, you know, when we look at that, and being on the pension board, I see, you know, the problem with the pension system is it's the politicians. Because if you look at the people who have the highest pensions in the state, they're always politicians. They're people like Billy Bolger, who moved from the Senate, where he was making $80,000, and moved over to UMass, and his salary was immediately elevated to $325,000 a year. So he's getting about almost $300,000 as a pension. And you look at our own Joan Menard, who left her state senate and came to Bristol Community College and got a virtual no-show position for $120,000. So she'll get about a $100,000 pension.
Right.
Eddie Lambert's now in the system making a couple of $100,000. So he'll retire. You know, the problem is people love to beat up the system, but the fact is, if anybody's draining the system, it's these pals that get their high 3, and if they don't get their high 3, they move into another position, and then they work forever. And we see it every time. So if that doesn't get you angry, I don't know what will. So just stay angry.
And remember, Memorial Day, we're not going to be on the air, and I know it's Wednesday, but we're taping a special 1 hour for Memorial Day. Be sure to watch that. We'll bring you up more today on Friday. Thank you. Have a great day.